AITA for refusing to gift my condo to my sister because my family thinks my job watching people sleep is worthless compared to her waking up the world. Posted to r/am asshole. I'm writing this at 3:47 a.m. from the monitoring station at the sleep lab where I work. 3 screens glow in front of me showing EEG waves, heart rhythms, and oxygen levels for the patients sleeping in rooms down the hall. In about 20 minutes, I need to check on Mr. Patterson in room 2 because his apnea episodes are clustering in a way that concerns me. But right now, I'm sitting here with tears I can't explain to anyone, trying to understand why my family thinks what I do is worthless. I'm Marcus, 30M, and I've been a registered polysomnographic technologist for 7 years. That's a fancy way of saying I'm a sleep study technician. I monitor patients overnight while they sleep, tracking their brain activity, breathing patterns, heart rhythms, eye movements, and muscle activity. I attach electrodes to their scalps, fit them with nasal cannulas, and watch their bodies tell stories they don't even know they're living while unconscious. Last week, I diagnosed a 45-year-old father of 3 with severe obstructive sleep apnea. His oxygen was dropping to 67% during REM cycles, dangerously low. Without treatment, he was headed for a heart attack or stroke within years, maybe months. His wife cried when I explained the findings because she'd been terrified watching him stop breathing night after night. I helped save that man's life. But according to my parents, I'm the night shift nobody. My sister Olivia is 26F and works as a producer for the morning show at our local news station. She starts work at 4 a.m. and helps coordinate the broadcasts that air from 5 to 9 a.m. It's legitimately demanding work, I've never denied that. But my parents have spent the last decade constructing an entire mythology around Olivia, waking up the world, while I just watch people sleep. At family gatherings, Olivia energizes the entire city every morning. Marcus just sits there in the dark. When I bought my condo 3 years ago, must be nice having a job where you can just zone out all night and still afford downtown real estate. When Olivia got her producer title, our daughter is responsible for what hundreds of thousands of people see first thing in the morning. She sets the tone for the whole day. When I got certified in pediatric polysomnography and started working with children who have sleep disorders, silence. Complete silence. The favoritism has always stung, but I learned to live with it. I have a job I genuinely love, colleagues who respect my expertise, and patients whose lives I help improve. I don't need my parents' validation. Or so I told myself. 2 weeks ago, my parents called a family meeting at their house. Olivia had gotten engaged to her boyfriend Derek, 29M, and they wanted to discuss wedding plans. I showed up expecting to hear about venues and guest lists. Instead, my father looked at me with this expression I can only describe as benevolent condescension and said, "Marcus, we've been thinking about what you could contribute to Olivia's new life." My mother jumped in, "You know how much Olivia and Derek love your condo. That downtown location would be perfect for them, close to the station for her early mornings, close to his office." I felt my stomach drop. "What are you asking?" My father cleared his throat. "We think it would be a wonderful gesture, a gift from brother to sister, if you transferred the condo to them as a wedding present." I actually laughed. I thought they were joking. They weren't. "I'm not giving away my home," I said. My mother's face tightened. "Marcus, you work nights. You sleep during the day. You could live anywhere. Olivia needs to be downtown for her career, her real career that actually impacts people." "My career impacts people," I said, and I hated how my voice shook. "You watch people sleep," my father said flatly. "Olivia wakes people up. She energizes them. She gives them information they need to start their days. What do you give people? A room with wires and a bed." Olivia, to her credit, looked uncomfortable. "Mom, Dad, maybe this isn't." "Sweetheart, we're just trying to help you start your marriage right," my mother interrupted. "Marcus has always been the background person in this family. He works in the dark while you shine. It's just how things are. This is his chance to do something meaningful for once." I stood up and left without another word. Since then, I've received 17 text messages from my mother about how I'm selfish and jealous of Olivia's success. My father called once to tell me I was disappointing them. Olivia sent one message that just said, "I'm sorry about them," but hasn't pushed back against the pressure. And I keep coming back to my monitoring station, night after night, diagnosing conditions that save lives, while my family treats me like I'm invisible. Tonight I'm watching Mrs. Chen in room 1. She's 62 and has been exhausted for years. Her primary care doctor kept dismissing her symptoms as just aging. Within the first hour of her study, I identified clear indicators of narcolepsy with cataplexy. This diagnosis will change her life. She'll finally understand why she's been struggling. She'll get treatment. But my family thinks I just watch people sleep. Am I the asshole for refusing to give my home to my sister? For thinking my job actually matters? For wanting my family to see me as something other than a night shift nobody? Edit. Thank you everyone for the overwhelming support. I'm crying at my monitoring station. Mr. Patterson is stable, his CPAP titration is going well. I never expected so many people to understand. A few people asked, so yes, I have a bachelor's in health sciences and additional certification in sleep technology. This isn't a job you just fall into. I'll update if anything changes. Update 1. The sleep medicine doctor saw what my family refuses to see. It's been 3 weeks since my original post, and something happened that I need to share. Dr. Amara Okonkwo is one of the sleep medicine physicians I work with most frequently. She's been practicing for 15 years and she reviews the studies I score, discusses complex cases with me, and treats me like a valued colleague rather than a button pusher. Last Tuesday, around 2 a.m., we were both in the lab, unusual for her, but she had a complex pediatric case she wanted to observe personally. During a quiet moment, she asked if I was okay. You've seemed different lately, she said. Distracted. Sad, maybe. I don't know what made me open up. Maybe it was the hour, or the darkness of the monitoring room, or the fact that Dr. Okonkwo has this way of listening that makes you feel like what you're saying actually matters. Whatever the reason, I told her everything. The family meeting. The condo demand. The years of being the night shift nobody. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something I'll never forget. Marcus, what you just described isn't disappointment or different values. It's emotional neglect. Systematic, long-term emotional neglect. I tried to protest. My parents weren't abusive, they provided for me, they weren't monsters. Neglect isn't always dramatic, she interrupted gently. Sometimes it's just invisible. Being consistently overlooked. Having your achievements dismissed. Being treated as less than. Your parents have constructed a narrative where your sister is the star and you're the supporting character. That's not about careers. That's about how they've chosen to value their children. She told me about a support group she knew of specifically for healthcare workers dealing with dismissive or difficult family dynamics. You'd be surprised how many of us work in healing professions because we weren't seen at home, she said. There's something about caring for strangers when your own family won't care for you. I went to my first meeting the following week. The group meets in a conference room at the hospital. Ironic, I know, but convenient for shift workers. There were 8 of us that first night, 2 nurses, an EMT, a respiratory therapist, a radiologic technologist, a physical therapist, a phlebotomist, and me. Their stories were different but somehow the same. The nurse whose parents called her job glorified babysitting, while praising her lawyer brother. The EMT whose family thought he was too scared to be a real doctor. The respiratory therapist whose mother had never once asked about her work in 20 years. We talked about the particular pain of doing intimate, important work, holding people at their most vulnerable, helping them heal, sometimes watching them die, while our own families acted like we were wasting our lives. I cried. More than I'd cried in years. And nobody made me feel ashamed of it. The group facilitator, a social worker named Jerome, introduced a concept that rearranged something in my brain. Structural favoritism isn't about love. Your parents may genuinely love you. But they've built a structure, a family system, where your sister's worth is inherent and yours must be proven. And no matter how much you prove, the structure doesn't change. Because the structure was never about achievement. It was about roles. He was right. Olivia didn't earn her place as the golden child through accomplishment. She was assigned it. And I didn't become the invisible child through failure. I was assigned it too. The condo demand wasn't about housing. It was about the structure. About reminding me that what's mine should flow to her because that's how the system works. Since joining the group, I've been learning to separate my self-worth from my family's assessment of me. It's harder than it sounds. 20-plus years of being the night shift nobody left marks I'm only now learning to see. I've started documenting my work accomplishments. Not for my parents, for me. Last month alone, I identified previously undiagnosed REM sleep behavior disorder in a 58-year-old man whose violent sleep movements were destroying his marriage. Caught an unusual EKG pattern during a routine study that led to the patient's cardiologist discovering an arrhythmia. I trained 2 new technicians in pediatric polysomnography. Presented a case study at our regional sleep medicine conference. I matter. My work matters. Whether my family acknowledges it or not. As for the family situation, I've gone low contact. I responded to my parents' messages once, saying simply, I will not be giving away my home. This topic is closed. If you want a relationship with me, it needs to be based on respect, not demands. They haven't responded. Olivia texted again, asking if we could talk. I told her I need space right now, but maybe eventually. She said she understood. The wedding is scheduled for 4 months from now. I haven't received an invitation. I'm trying to convince myself that's okay. More updates as things develop. Thank you all for helping me see that I deserve better. Update 2. The wedding happened without my condo, and without me. 6 weeks ago, Olivia and Derek got married in what my mother described in a Facebook post as the wedding of the century. I wasn't there. The invitation arrived a month before the wedding, late, obviously deliberate. Inside was a note from my mother that said, "We hope you'll do the right thing and support your sister's happiness, even if you won't give her the home she deserves." I didn't respond. I didn't attend. I spent the wedding night at the sleep lab, monitoring a 12-year-old boy with suspected parasomnias. His night terrors had been so severe, his parents were afraid to let him sleep. By morning, we had data that would help his treatment team develop a plan. He hugged me when he left, and his mother said, "Thank you for taking such good care of him." That felt like enough. According to social media and family friends, the wedding was expensive. Very expensive. Olivia wanted everything perfect: the downtown venue with the skyline views, the celebrity chef catering, the designer dress, the honeymoon in Bali. My parents contributed, but from what I've pieced together, Olivia and Derek also took on significant debt. The condo demand, I realized, wasn't just about favoritism. It was about avoiding the financial consequences of their choices. If I'd gifted them my home, they could have sold it or avoided rent while they paid down wedding debt. My refusal didn't stop the wedding, it just meant they'd have to live with their decisions. Life continued at the sleep lab. I earned additional certification in circadian rhythm disorders. Dr. Okonkwo recommended me for a senior technologist position, which came with a raise and more complex cases. My support group met regularly, and I started feeling something I hadn't felt in years, proud of myself, independent of anyone else's opinion. Then, 3 weeks ago, something unexpected happened. I was reviewing the schedule for an upcoming overnight when I saw a familiar name, Olivia Chinmorrison. The last name was new, Derek's, from the wedding, but the first name and date of birth were unmistakable. My sister had scheduled a sleep study at my lab. I immediately went to our lab manager. "I can't be objective about this patient," I said. "She's my sister." He looked at the schedule, then at me. "I'll reassign her to Keisha for the overnight." "But Marcus, she specifically requested a study here, at this facility." "Did she know you work here?" "I didn't know. We hadn't spoken in months. The night of Olivia's study, I wasn't her technician. But in a facility this size, paths cross. I saw her arrive. She looked exhausted in a way I recognized professionally. Dark circles, slightly slowed movements, that particular pallor of chronic sleep deprivation. She saw me too. Her eyes went wide, then immediately welled with tears. I nodded at her, kept my expression neutral, and walked away. It wasn't my place to engage. She was a patient. I was a professional. Keisha ran the study. The next morning, Dr. Okonkwo reviewed the data and scheduled a follow-up consultation with Olivia. I know this because Dr. Okonkwo asked to speak with me afterward. "I know you're not treating her," Dr. Okonkwo said carefully. "But I want you to know, your sister has significant sleep-onset insomnia with features suggesting stress-induced chronic insomnia disorder. Her sleep architecture is a mess. This isn't something that developed overnight. She's been suffering for a while." I didn't say anything. "She asked about you," Dr. Okonkwo continued. "Not as a patient asking about a technician, as a sister asking about a brother. I told her I couldn't discuss you professionally, but that you're one of the best technologists I've ever worked with." She paused. She started crying. I thanked Dr. Okonkwo and went home to sleep. 2 days later, Olivia texted me, "Can we please talk? Not about the condo or the wedding. About us. About everything." I agreed to meet for coffee. Update 3. My sister finally sees me, and everything breaks open. The coffee shop was strategically chosen, halfway between the TV station and my condo, open late enough that I could meet Olivia after she finished her shift and before I started mine. This intersection of schedules we'd spent our whole lives navigating had suddenly become common ground. Olivia arrived looking worse than I'd seen her during the study intake. Even with professional makeup, the exhaustion was visible. She sat down across from me and immediately started crying. "I'm so sorry," she said. "Marcus, I'm so sorry." I waited. I'd learned from support group that silence could be more honest than words sometimes. Dr. Okonkwo, she was so kind, but she was also direct. She said my insomnia was severe, that my body had been screaming for help for months and I'd been ignoring it. She talked about the data from the study, and Marcus, Olivia's voice cracked. She talked about sleep studies. What they actually involve. The expertise required. The way technologists monitor patients. The lives that get saved through diagnosis. She pulled a tissue from her bag and pressed it to her eyes. I asked her about you. Because I saw you that night, and you looked so competent, professional. Like you belonged there in a way I hadn't seen before. And she told me you were exceptional. That you'd identified life-threatening conditions. That doctors relied on your judgment. She looked at me directly. She said last year you caught a cardiac issue during a routine study that would have killed the patient if it hadn't been found when it was. I nodded. I remembered that case. I didn't know, Olivia said. Marcus, I genuinely didn't know what you actually did. I knew the title, I knew the hours, but I bought into what Mom and Dad always said. That you just sat there. That it wasn't real work. I never once asked you about it. Not really. Not to understand. No, I agreed quietly. You didn't. And the condo. She put her face in her hands. God, the condo. I was so caught up in wedding planning, so stressed about money, and when Mom suggested it, I should have shut it down immediately. But some part of me, the part that's been trained since childhood to think my needs matter more than yours, that part thought maybe it made sense. Maybe you could just give it to me because I needed it and you're Marcus, and Marcus has always been flexible, and Marcus doesn't complain, and Marcus just disappears into the background, I finished. She nodded, tears streaming. I let them treat you like you were less. 4 years. I benefited from it. Every time they praised me, every time they compared us, every time they made you small so I could feel big, I let it happen. Sometimes I even enjoyed it. That last admission hung in the air between us. Olivia, I said slowly, I appreciate you saying this. But I need you to understand something. The past few months, I've done a lot of work, therapy, support groups, self-reflection. And I've realized that what our parents did to me isn't just about them. It's about a whole family system that everyone participated in. Including you. I know. And changing one conversation doesn't fix years of damage. I know that too. She wiped her eyes. I'm not asking for instant forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance. To actually know you. To understand what your life is really like instead of the cartoon version Mom and Dad created. She told me about the wedding, how the debt was crushing them, how the stress had started during engagement and never stopped, how Derek was already talking about whether they'd made a mistake rushing into something so expensive. She told me about work, how the pressure to be on every morning at 4 a.m. was destroying her, how she'd been drinking energy drinks and taking sleep aids in a vicious cycle. Dr. Okonkwo explained it, Olivia said. How stimulants during the day were wrecking my sleep architecture, and the sleep aids weren't giving me real rest, and my body was just failing. She said without treatment, I was headed for serious health consequences. Depression, cardiovascular issues, cognitive decline. She's right, I said. I see it in patients all the time. Sleep isn't optional. It's when your brain cleans out toxins, when your heart recovers, when your immune system regenerates. Chronic deprivation kills people. Just slowly, so they don't notice until they're already sick. Olivia stared at me. You really love this, don't you? This isn't just a job for you. No, I said. It's not. Tell me about it. Please. Tell me what you actually do. So I did. For the first time in our adult lives, I told my sister about my work in real detail. About EEG montages and respiratory effort belts. About the difference between obstructive and central apnea, and why it matters. About children with parasomnias and elderly patients with REM behavior disorder and middle-aged executives who don't know why they're always exhausted. I told her about Mr. Patterson, who I'd mentioned in my original post. He'd responded well to CPAP treatment and had sent me a letter saying he hadn't felt this rested in 20 years. I told her about the 12-year-old with night terrors, who was now sleeping peacefully most nights. I told her about Dr. Okonkwo's mentorship and the conference presentation and the certification I'd just earned. Olivia listened. Really listened. And at the end, she said something that cracked something open in my chest. Mom and Dad gave me everything except the ability to see my own brother. They raised me to think I was the sun and you were just night. Darkness. Nothing. But Marcus, you work in the night because that's when people need you. That's when they're vulnerable and scared and sick. And you're there for them. She reached across the table and took my hand. I don't know how to fix what our parents did. Maybe I can't. But I want to know my brother. The real one. Not the night shift nobody, the person who helps people when they're most helpless. Final update. Different schedules, same value, 6 months later. It's been 6 months since that coffee shop conversation, and I'm writing this final update from a place I never expected to be, peace. Olivia and I have established what we call transition dinners. We meet at 5 p.m., after her morning shift ends and before my night shift begins, at various restaurants around downtown. It's a narrow window, but it works. She tells me about production challenges and difficult talent and the chaos of live television. I tell her about complex cases and diagnostic puzzles and the strange intimacy of watching strangers sleep. We're learning each other as adults, separate from the roles our parents assigned us. Her marriage is struggling, honestly. The wedding debt combined with stress-related health issues created fractures she and Derek are still trying to repair. They started couples therapy. Olivia started individual therapy too, specifically for what her therapist calls golden child syndrome. The damage done to favored children who are taught their worth is contingent on outshining everyone else. It messed me up in ways I didn't understand, she told me at a recent dinner. Always having to be the star, the achiever, the one who energizes people. The pressure was suffocating. And instead of recognizing that we were both trapped in the same broken system, I focused on staying above you. Like keeping you down was the only way I could stay up. Her insomnia has improved significantly with treatment. Dr. Okonkwo transitioned her to a sleep psychologist specializing in cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. No more sleep aids, just evidence-based treatment. Olivia had to restructure her whole relationship with work, including hard conversations with her bosses about workload and boundaries. I told them I was developing health problems and needed to scale back, she said. They actually listened. I think they were scared of losing me. But more importantly, I was scared of losing myself. As for our parents, the situation remains complicated. They haven't apologized. They haven't acknowledged that demanding my condo was inappropriate. In fact, according to Olivia, they've rewritten history entirely. Now the story is that I abandoned the family because I'm jealous of Olivia's success. I've accepted that they may never see me clearly. The structural favoritism Dr. Okonkwo identified, the assigned roles Jerome explained in support group, these patterns are decades old and deeply embedded. My parents would have to admit they damaged both their children, in different ways, through their choices. Most people can't make that admission. But here's what I've learned, I don't need them to see me. I see myself now. And Olivia is learning to see me too. Last month, she came to the sleep lab during one of my shifts, not as a patient, but as a visitor. Our lab manager allowed it during a quiet period. I showed her the monitoring station, the electrode setups, the way EEG waves paint pictures of brain activity in real time. This is incredible, she said, watching the screens. You're literally watching people's brains work. Or not work, I said, pointing to a pattern. See this? That's apnea. His brain is telling his body to breathe, but his airway is blocked. Watch the oxygen saturation. She watched the numbers dip and held her breath. Now watch there. He woke up just enough for his airway to open. He won't remember this in the morning. But if this happens 30 times an hour every night, his heart is under constant stress. And you catch this, she said softly. You watch for this all night, every night. Someone has to. She hugged me then, in the dim light of the monitoring room. I'm sorry it took me so long to understand. I'm sorry I let them make you invisible. I hugged her back. You're seeing me now. That matters. There's a particular moment in every overnight shift, usually around 4 a.m., when the lab is completely quiet. The patients are in their deepest sleep, the monitors hum softly, and I sit alone in the darkness watching brainwaves and breathing patterns like a guardian at the threshold of consciousness. I used to find that loneliness unbearable. It felt like confirmation of everything my parents believed, that I was nobody, doing nothing, in the dark while the world slept without knowing or caring I existed. Now I understand it differently. The night shift isn't nothing. It's sacred space. It's the hours when human beings are most vulnerable, when their bodies are trying to heal and restore, when sleep, the foundation of all health, either happens or fails. And I'm there, watching, catching the problems no one else sees, protecting people who will never know my name. My sister wakes up the world. I watch over it while it sleeps. Different schedules. Same value. Final edit. Thank you to everyone who followed this story. To those of you in my support group who I know lurk on this subreddit, hi Jerome, thank you for giving me the language to understand my own life. To Dr. Okonkwo, who will never read this but who saw me when my family wouldn't, thank you for your mentorship. And to those of you reading this who work nights, who work in healthcare, who feel invisible in your families or your lives, you matter. Your work matters. The darkness is not nothing. Sometimes it's exactly where you need to be. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a patient in room 3 whose oxygen levels are dipping. Time to do my job.